Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Stoney.
Hello.
And Jason.
Hello, everyone.
How's everyone been?
Well.
This is a little inside baseball here. We've been recording the past couple episodes as a trial run in Stoney's home studio. And so this is a bit of a return to form for me, and it feels a little bit strange to be back in this saddle at the regular studio for Retrospect.
I made that comment. I said, man, I kind of miss sitting around this little round table we have here.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It really does, because we got ahead on one episode. Anyways, it feels good to be back, but it definitely feels like first of all, that we haven't been in here, and also that it feels like we haven't done this.
I know it's been like for a while.
Yeah.
What was it? It's been over a month now. Almost.
Feels like.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah. How you been? You looking a lot better.
I'm just pushing, trying to find the new normal, and they're adding a new vestibular thing to this, and so they're increasing my strength and the vestibular part of it for trying to find the balance, and that's when they believe that the brain damage is causing the brain not to compensate for the balance is where the problem is. I have good moments, but then I can do something and turn around and fall straight over.
Oh, gosh.
Fall down the steps, fell off the toilet once. Just stupid things, and it's just trying to find the new norm of what's going on. So,
Yeah, well, Stone, I knew. I mean, I've said it before that I knew this was going to be a long-term challenge for you, and it's looking that way, that it's going to be long-term.
I would love nothing more to be back at work tomorrow, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think you can do that.
Because even the last time when we met with the main doctor. Okay, well, good. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And he's like, I'll see you in 3 months. I'm like,
gosh.
What? No. I said, I'll see you in a month. He said, I'll see you in 3 months. And I think that's kind of key, because the physical therapy part is in 6-week increments.
Right.
And so they want a group of 2 things to happen before they get with the physical therapist and the speech and memory therapist, and they combine all their information and then start the next determination of what they're going to add. And now that I had that vestibular test, they're adding more, not just the strength training, but the vestibular part to really push to see the balance and try to push my balance into catching and I mean, it's kind of crazy, the stuff that they do. I mean, they throw things at me. They, balloons and weighted balls and
oh gosh,
and I'm going
dodgeballs.
Not dodgeballs, no, but it's crazy. And you have to stand on this pad, or you have to have one foot directly in front of the other one. I can't stand up more than 30 seconds regular without all this other. But they're hoping that the brain will continue to see the stimuli and increase and make some adjustments.
Wow.
And I tell you what, some days I am beat.
Yeah, I know. I can imagine that's very taxing.
The people at the physical therapy place are amazing. They're really sweet. They're nice. They believe everybody's family. And they just treat you so well, and I appreciate them. But I have to be just this, oh, here he comes again kind of a person, because it's frustrating for me, and I try to keep a positive outlook, but it's demoralizing.
Yeah.
Not to be able just to do some of the simple things that I could do in life.
Right.
And now I can't. And then little things affect that. I've been... Also, the last time we met the neurologist, he diagnosed me with anxiety and depression. Y'all know me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a depressing person. But this is just starting to take a toll, a daily toll. Some days are good, some days are bad, but I'm just trying to get it all figured out.
Right.
And, I love my wife for putting up with me.
Mm-hmm.
Miranda's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Yep.
Well, I just realized that I jumped straight into this episode, and I don't think I fully remember what we were talking about today.
We are going to talk about, I believe, cryptids.
Okay.
I saw a video the other day that was a 13-foot, that's a 3 meter, a 13-foot great white shark got tagged. It was swimming up next to the boat and they tagged it.
Okay.
And they're monitoring this shark for a while. And they're watching everything the shark does. They can tell everything. They can tell the speed that the shark's moving. They can tell the temperature of the water around the shark.
Right.
And all of a sudden, while they're monitoring this shark, it goes as fast as they know a great white shark can move down the cliff. And all of a sudden, the water goes from 35 degrees to 72.8 degrees.
Wow.
Instantaneous. And it stays at 72 point something for 5 days. And then they found the tag on the beach, which means in 5 days, something completely ate the shark, digested it, pooped it out, and the tag, because I think the tags float. If it gets dislodged, they can go back and collect the tag, and it wound up on a beach somewhere. What can eat a 13-foot great white shark in one bite? And Miranda and I started talking about megalodon, and that's what these people were talking about here, megalodon.
Right.
This is one of the true cryptids out there. And I thought it might be kind of fun to talk about this from a generational perspective because, you know, George Washington, when he was president, didn't even know dinosaurs existed. It wasn't until the early 1900s or 18 something. I don't remember the dates. Here we go with my brain again. George Washington didn't even know what a fossil or a dinosaur was.
Right.
And then a couple years later, they discovered the first dinosaur fossil. And so when I was a kid, we had Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster. And now we got
Mothman.
Mothman, that's a big one.
Megalodon, you know, Chupacabra or whatever now. Chupacabra, you know, what's out there?
Well, I will tell you, I did a little. I was looking some research on that particular incident that you talked about, and I don't know if this is another one, but
there's a couple of them out there.
Well, in 2000, this is the one I saw was in 2003. A guy by the name of Dave Riggs, they tagged a 9-foot great white off the southern coast of Australia. And what they were tracking is their migration patterns. And what happened was the shark just disappeared off their tracker. Well, sometime later, the tracker shows up on the beach. They pull the tracker, they pull all the data off of it, and come to find out the shark did suddenly descend about 1,900 feet. And the key was the temperature of where the depth at which they're showing temp. So it was showing I think a 74 degree temp at about 1,900 feet. Where water is normally around 45 degrees Fahrenheit, if I remember right.
It depends on where it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so they, of course, now that just like you said, what exactly can devour a great white shark of that size? So, of course, they go in and talk about all your usual suspects. Okay, was it orcas? Because we know orcas now eat great whites.
But they take bites.
They're
not big enough to eat a 9-foot or a 13-foot great white in one bite.
So they mention great whites, but the problem with great whites don't go down to those depths. The second was Could it be an extinct aquatic dinosaur that somehow managed to survive since the Chicxulub impact 60-something million years ago? Which they mentioned the Spinosaurus, and then I think it's called the Monosaurus. Yeah, Monosaurus. And that one of them gets I think the Monosaurus gets 50 feet long, and it could travel 30 miles per hour in the water. It's pretty quick, pretty nasty creature. That would probably be big enough to basically swallow something whole.
Sure.
They also mentioned Megalodon, and they've talked about Megalodon. Those get up to about 60 feet in length at the time.
Or more.
Right. They said supposedly those went extinct about 3 million years ago. Another one that I thought was interesting, which I thought was promising, was the colossal squid.
Yeah.
Now they did the only one they have seen. I believe in 2004, the largest one actually seen was 59 feet long and weighed about a ton.
Jeez.
I can only imagine what something looks like. But the problem with the giant squid, or the colossal squid for that point, is their body temps don't get as high as what the tracker was showing. So that basically knocks that out. So now they have kind of settled on and I don't know how much truth there is. And when they say this stuff, I don't really know how they know this, but they said that now the consensus is among biologists is that it was a colossal great white suffering from gigantism. So they say another great white ate this other shark.
Wow.
Which they said this colossal was about 16 feet long. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. I don't even know how they know that.
They're guessing.
They're guessing.
And that's the point. And I'm glad you kind of went there, because I did a little research, and in a study exploring the belief in unexplained phenomena, including cryptids, a significant portion of the American population has shown a belief in these entities. From a group of 2,000 American adults, 63% expressed belief in the paranormal in some form. Specifically, 27% believed in Bigfoot, indicating a substantial interest in cryptids. This belief in creatures like Bigfoot, the Mothman Ian mentioned, and the Jersey Devil, despite the lack of concrete evidence, is influenced by various factors. The fascination with these cryptids persists in popular culture, driven by the financial benefits of crypto tourism. Towns and cities known for their local cryptids often capitalize on this. So people are willing to spend money on this.
There's the bridge that the Mothman was first shown at.
Over the Ohio River.
Yep, it's a big place.
The Mothman prophecies.
And then you brought it up. Moreover, the existence of once disbelieved but now proven animals like the giant squid fuels the possibility of other cryptids might one day be verified. The blend of financial incentives, cultural significance, and the enduring appeal of the unknown keeps cryptids in a compelling topic for many. And I thought that was just fascinating that there's so many people that believe in this.
Right.
I mean, it's out there. What are people believing in? And a generational thing, us, it was all word of mouth.
Yeah.
A lot of these, like from the Native Americans, you have some that come down, or the Yeti or things in Nepal were all word of mouth, stories told to scare little children.
I think the biggest one that I think is technically considered a cryptid because of the discussion around it and all that kind of stuff is the Greys, like the aliens. It's a big thing, especially in, Arizona or New Mexico. The whole
Roswell,
Roswell, where It's the big thing of like the gray aliens and the whole the cultural defining thing that happened after that. So.
Well, just speaking of talking about tourist attractions, according to Forbes, the United States rakes in about 140 million annually from crypto attractions. Yeah,
Wow.
And Scotland earns a little over 73 million a year from the Nessie tourism.
Monster,
so there's money to be made in this stuff.
That's
there
Well,
really
think about
is.
how many people stay at the Myrtles and looking for ghosts, and then going after Chupacabra or whatever. I mean, they're actually seeking this. How many tours can you go on looking for Bigfoot? It's insane. A lot of people are willing to spend a lot of money on this,
especially now that like special effects and things are becoming more consumer friendly. Like you can really, there are, especially with AI and all that kind of stuff. This is what I'm talking about as well. That whenever I'm talking about like my disdain for artificially generated stuff and like all that kind of things, like there are so many videos that like I have the sense that it's not real, and come to find out it's not. But like so many people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is real. And I'm like, we're living in a world now where like you don't know if anything is real. I mean, I feel like I try my best to educate myself on some of that, but just the normal consumer does not, I feel like, and that's scary for the future. I feel like that just things like this that was once word of mouth, like you're talking about, is now like there are real artificially generated things that people are mistaking for real life events, and it's like that's not real. So
Yeah, this whole cryptid is, kind of talks about what are cryptids. They're basically animals that there's no scientific proof they exist.
right?
But unfortunately it created it's like any sort of thing that kind of captures the imagination. It actually, there's a field of study.
of course,
Cryptozoology.
Yep.
So the founders of this are scientists Bernard Heuvelmans, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
well,
And he's a Belgian scientist, and then a Scottish biologist and writer, Ivan T. Sanderson. Both men had formal scientific degrees, but also were fascinated with rare creatures and paranormal subjects. Sanderson even claimed to have been personally attacked by an Alata, a legendary giant bat with a 12-foot wingspan that supposedly exists somewhere in Central Africa.
Wow.
So, yeah, they wrote a book, 1958, On Track of Unknown Animals. So, yeah, all these, I was kind of looking at all these crypto animals. What exactly kind of falls? What are these? Some of these are well known. Some of these I didn't even know about.
oh yeah,
Of course, everybody knows Loch Ness.
Well, I did a list of the top 20 cryptos.
There you go.
Number 1 is Bigfoot Sasquatch. Number 2 is Loch Ness. Number 3 is Yeti, or the abominable snowman. Number 4 is Chupacabra.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, Ian's Mothman. Number 6 is the Jersey Devil. Number 7 is the Kraken, which is, I believe, coming from a Scandinavian viewpoint, if I'm not mistaken. Number 8 is El Chupacabra, which is Puerto Rico. And then there's Mokele Membe.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yep. Then the Thunderbird, which is number 10, which is Native American mythology.
Right.
Yowie, Bunyip.
oh the bunyip, yeah,
Yep. Bunyip. Okay. Dover Demon, Flatwoods Monster, and even Miranda and Ian's Canada has one, the Okobuku, the Loveland Frogman, the Kappa, Wendigo, and the Mongolian Deathworm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that, the Mongolian deathworm. Another one I saw was the Wampus cat. Did you see that one?
That wasn't in this list, but it's
It has its roots in Cherokee folklore
okay.
and Appalachian legends.
Mhm.
It's a 6-legged feline.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a legendary creature steeped in Appalachian folklore, rooted in Cherokee mythology. The tale tells of a woman who, after eavesdropping on a tribal ceremony, was cursed and transformed into a half-human, half-feline beast.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Descriptions vary, but it's often portrayed with a human face, feline body, and a haunting cry.
Yeah, you
Oh,
got to
that
wonder
sounds
how
like
many
a-
of these popped out to keep kids from
Oh,
misbehaving.
100%. Yeah. That's like the Brothers Grimm or whatever.
Yeah.
That's all the nursery rhymes.
What about the
Little
honey?
Red.
What about the Honey Island swamp monster?
Gosh.
That one's close to
It's a little close to home.
close to home.
Mm-hmm.
Originating from Louisiana's Honey Island swamp. The creature's myth involves a circus train derailment
What?
in the 1960s, supposedly releasing chimpanzees in the wild. Given how similar the Honey Island swamp monster's appearance reportedly is to Bigfoot, it seems particularly unlikely that such a creature descended from chimps.
Wow.
Described as ape-like with gray hair, yellow or red eyes, and a foul odor, the monster has been linked to lore of native tribes such as the Choctaw and the Homa. 2 air traffic controllers reported the first documented sighting in the 60s. And though there have been numerous others, skeptics have dismissed each one as random bear attack or just another hoax. So I thought that was kind of interesting, something that was
Close to home.
close to home. I'd always heard about the Louisiana's Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
I'd always, maybe as a kid, I remember hearing about that.
I've never heard about that at all.
Really?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
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 Never heard about it.
Well, see, I would think from a generational standpoint. See, I'm thinking about growing up. What were some of the things that were prevalent, during those formative years for me?
Yeah.
And I would venture to say Bigfoot was a huge part of that because I think really that craze started in the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
After that famous picture was taken, and some would say that was all fake and the guy supposedly all that, but you never know.
Right.
There's been a lot of sightings of a Bigfoot type creature in the Northwest and in other parts of the world. So I'm not necessarily discounting it. Sometimes people may discount a story under pressure.
Right.
Right. Well, we've talked about that, what a lot of people believe and why they believe it. And, just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean somebody else hasn't seen something,
Right. That's like when I hear about a lot of these stories, it's hard for me to sit here and say, oh, none of it's real. Because I'm like, that person experienced something that I have never experienced. But do I believe in a lot of this stuff? Not really. A lot of the evidence that I've seen for some of these cryptids, for instance, doesn't really hold a lot of merit for me, but
Well, I've got some here, some animals that were thought to be cryptids and have been confirmed through science. So, I mean, giant squid is number one. The coelacanth.
Well, I mean, think about like we did the giant squid there. Think if you're a in the 17 and 1800s or before that, and you're in one of these sailing ships where superstition runs rampant anyway, and all of a sudden you accidentally see this giant squid that's 50 feet long right after you poop on yourself and you clean it up, you're going to start telling stories.
Yeah, and they were on these little wooden ships.
Right.
So those things were almost the size of probably the ship they were on.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand how they could do that. Yeah, the okapi is another animal that's been the Komodo dragon. I didn't realize that. Mountain gorillas and goblin shark. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Well, what was the little game that you played when you were in school and you got all the students in a big circle and the teacher told one student a sentence and you had to repeat the sentence all the way around.
Right.
And it was never the same.
Telephone.
Well, telephone. Thank you. And you see the same thing happening at these times. You see this one thing. Maybe you saw an iguana and by the time it got back to whatever country, it was a dragon.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
everybody's going to embellish the story and
It
continue to
starts
make
off as
yeah.
6 feet, and then before you know it, it's
It's
16
six-
feet,
16
or,
feet,
or
right?
60 feet. Yeah,
Right.
you're like, oh my gosh.
I mean, what do you think about it? I mean, I'm thinking about at the time, because to me, I would think the UFO thing would have been really prevalent in the boomer generation because of the Roswell
Oh,
incident.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and then the whole War of the Worlds and all that was like really when I started kind of understanding and watching TV, to me, the Bigfoot thing had really kind of taken over the UFO thing because, I mean, it made it into popular culture. I can think of a famous right now sitcom that I watched on a regular basis as a young kid that y'all probably remember. Stoney, I know you remember it, was the $6 Million Man.
Right.
Who was the main villain of the $6 million was Bigfoot.
Right.
You know, so it definitely was popularized in the culture. And then by the time I think the X-Files came back around, and that really kind of brought the alien kind of thing back to the forefront again. And then some of these other creatures have just kind of not nearly penetrated the culture to the level that, the Mothman is a big one too, because I remember when the movie came out.
Right.
And I think it was fairly successful, if I recall.
I think in recent years, I've heard more talk about the Mothman because I think there's also media about it and stories and things that have like
supposedly it appears before a disaster.
The whole thing, yeah. So I think there's a lot of stuff that I think is.
That was a good movie, by the way.
I haven't seen it, but
You've
heard
never seen the Mothman prophecies,
No.
Really?
Yeah. Again, this is not really my wheelhouse, but I have friends that do enjoy it. So again, they have talked about cryptids before in the past.
Yeah.
But the thing for me, in at least when I was growing up, and this may be because of where I grew up or the kind of person that I grew up as, but like for me, like it was never cryptids or monsters or like any kind of that. I never really believed any of that kind of stuff. But a lot of my friends, the conversation was always about spiritual stuff. Always about ghosts and hauntings, and like that was always the unknown for us as a kid. Like you can't go there; it's haunted, or like whoa, like we're in a cemetery, it's haunted. You know, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it was a big thing. Was like the unknown was always that. Or sometimes we lightly talked about aliens, about like what if, and I saw something in the night sky, or like that kind of stuff. But
it's been, I'm thinking,
I guess I think that it could have been circumstance where I grew up.
Right.
In,
I'm thinking your age, when you would probably, the last 10 years of television, there's been a lot of reality TV as it pertains to people going into houses that are supposedly haunted.
Yep.
That's a biggie. Because I watched several of those kind of shows as they would go in and check things out.
I remember seeing some of those before as
well.
So
I can see how that would kind of permeate.
Yeah,
I think it also that group and that would kind of be the forefront of things.
I think that was the core, and then because I was raised in a kind of religious environment as well, to kind of like tangent off of that. Sometimes it was like possession stuff. So like I don't think that was a big thing. Like I don't think that's like a culturally relevant thing to everyone. I could be wrong, but like a lot of times also think about like Exorcist.
Oh well, yeah,
that's
been around for
a while.
You're
right. But that was like what I'm talking about is like the it thing that we were all kind of scared of was that sort of the hauntings, the ghosts, the possession, like that kind of whole was that unknown realm where it wasn't physical, it was all
the Exorcist was a very much a powerful film when it was made. It still kind of grabs the imagination of what they did with that movie. Same with the Amityville Horror.
Oh yeah.
I remember when that movie came out and how much it kind of played on the conscience of people.
Yeah.
At the time, because it supposedly was based off a true story. Even though I knew someone that grew up in that area, that town, and she said it was all a bunch of BS.
Oh yeah.
But it's interesting to see how certain things capture the imagination of certain groups. I've been kind of exposed to all of it. But remember, as a kid, at least I don't recall much about possession really during those years. I mean, but The Exorcist was like in the 70s, I believe. So, I mean, if anything, it was like the horror genre as far as the Friday the 13th and the Freddy's and Nightmare on Elm Street kind of stuff. And it's kind of these movies that just hacked a bunch of people up,
Right.
So,
and I think I could be wrong, but like I think like the new It thing, again, we're deviating more from what we're talking about here, but like I think that even younger generations, from what I've heard, is like a lot of psychological horror is like a big thing now. Like it's all like mind games, playing with your mind, the perception of reality, and like all that kind of stuff of like
almost like a Matrix.
Yeah, it is a little bit. It's like a subgenre of like horror films and stuff, but it's like it focuses on like mental and emotional, like psychological states and like things that aren't perceived, all kinds of sanity and all that kind of stuff. It's like a big thing that I've noticed. That's a big thing that
I think it is generational.
Yeah, right.
Because everybody has something. When I was kind of growing up, I wanted to take a boat into the Bermuda Triangle. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go right into the center of the triangle and see what's in it.
And shout to the heavens.
And to something. And I thought it was UFOs, actually.
Right.
I really just thought that they had some base there and something was happening and just making ships and planes disappear.
Yeah.
And so it is very generational. And, kids today, they have more access to the information on the internet. Whereas when, I was growing up, it was books like Chariots of the Gods and Us Talking and newspaper articles and magazines talking about, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, and the Bermuda Triangle. And it was just fascinating back then because you actually had to use your imagination more than pulling up a whole bunch of information that somebody's put on Wikipedia or something else that is their belief and you're just reading it and taking it. You actually had to use your brain back then and come up with some ideas.
Right.
And your own fears or your own wanting to go into the Bermuda Triangle or be an adventurer and go find Bigfoot. Think about how many people have gone to looking for the Loch Ness Monster.
Oh, yeah.
Just to take a picture. There's only been, 2 pictures of the whole thing. And how many people actually go there and spend good money hoping to get a picture of the Loch Ness Monster?
Right.
Well, there was a special I saw on one of those TV programs.
The one where they brought the submarine down there looking for the Loch Ness Monster?
No, not that one. I'm just talking about in general. But this was about Bigfoot. But it was based off. It was a story. It was a Louisiana man.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was in North Louisiana, if I'm not mistaken, where this takes place, if I remember right. But he was out hunting and came across several of these creatures.
Gosh.
And literally fled, and he left, and he went to his deathbed. He said he never went hunting again. You're talking about someone that hunted your entire life, and all of a sudden he goes, "I lost my courage."
Yeah.
And so
and like it's that kind of stuff.
I wish I can find where that's at because when I was thinking about that, it was like
I like a story like that where someone feels like they had an experience like that. I mean, I can't say that person's wrong at all because if I was in the same position, I probably would do the same. It's crazy.
I'm pulling something up here
to kind of just talk about for what I was bringing up a second ago is like the movie Get Out or like Midsummer or like great like psychological horror movies that The Shining is another big one of like those kind of films that really play into the losing of the mind and the whole that kind of stuff.
Well, this one in Louisiana took place in 1981, and the guy's name is Mike Woolley.
Yeah.
So if I'm trying to remember if this was what that story was about, it was really good.
Yeah.
And it it made me really think that, you know, you can kind of tell when someone is BSing.
Oh yeah.
You know, when all of a sudden a guy that has been hardened and grew up in the woods all his life, all of a sudden it's become scared to go in the woods. Something happened.
Oh yeah.
Right.
He encountered something out there that absolutely terrified him.
Yep.
And you know, I anybody that's been in the woods at night, I'm talking about like area, that's a harrowing experience. If you're not, I could see how someone can feel very vulnerable.
Oh yeah. Especially like I've watched some videos that, and this is where my mind goes. I feel like I'm a very logical person. I feel like, and I feel you can explain away a lot of some stuff. But I've watched some videos of some people like being in the woods or like driving down a dirt road in the middle of nowhere kind of stuff. And like you hear a sound outside and people in the comments will be like, oh, that's this kind of animal. But like in that moment when it's the dark of night and you're alone on this road with a flashlight or whatever, and you hear like this screech from the night, I'm like, I don't care who you are. That's terrifying. And I would be like, especially if you don't know what it is, because the human mind does a great job with, you know, imagining. That's, I think, it's a beautiful thing that we as humans can do, is imagine and can you know, can think and can feel all these things. And I feel like that's something that is so instinctual to humans, is being able to the survivability aspect of a human being, being able to, like, you know, if the noticing movement out of the corner of your eye, or that, like, or you hear something, you know, it's a,
yeah. I mean, I think all these things are, you know, 80%. You know, we're talking about initially about this shark that got eaten by something.
Right.
80% of the ocean is unexplored.
right.
Mm-hmm.
There are depths of the ocean, we have no clue what's down there.
Yeah.
And I know we get into this argument, well, if you can't prove it, if it can't be proven through the scientific method, then it doesn't exist. You know, I don't know.
I think
I think you need to. I think that's kind of narrow-minded,
right.
to a degree. I mean, I can understand being skeptical. I get that because there's so much fake stuff now. But
I feel like it's nice to have rules. It's nice to have boundaries. And it's nice to know that we have some kind of rails. But obviously, the world doesn't work that way, and science has been disproven time and time again, and probably will be forever and ever. Amen. Because like that's just. But I think that I think both sides of it, where I feel like, yes, you're right. I feel like it needs to be proven with the scientific methods. That way, it is official. It is something. But at the same time, the world doesn't work that way, and I feel like there may be a crazy, massive species of whatever we don't know at the bottom of the ocean, because again, we can't go down there.
The fact of the matter is, I mean, let's just. If Megalodon still exists out there, I don't think they would want people to know.
Right.
No, I don't.
I mean, because the idea of a 60-foot shark is terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be absolutely terrifying.
Well, I mean, the only thing that helps us in that is statistically in America, you have a greater chance of being killed by the Clintons or their cronies than you do actually getting bit by a great white shark.
Oh, there's no doubt.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Now, did y'all saw that video of that Russian surfer that got eaten by those tiger sharks or whatever?
Yes.
That was horrible.
Yikes.
That was absolutely horrible. I mean, the idea of, I don't know, to me, the idea of just sitting in the water like that and what's coming up from the bottom, you don't know what's coming up to get you. I mean, I can only imagine the what was it, the USS Indianapolis went down and all those sailors went in the water and they all clung to each other in the water for like days. And while the sharks were just picking them off one by one.
Gosh.
I mean, that's just,
that's
I can't
torture.
even imagine that. But yeah, to me, I think right now the big thing is aliens. I really do. The alien thing to me has become the forefront of what I would call cryptids, because I don't hear too much about Bigfoot too much anymore. Every now and then you hear something about the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
You know, some of these other animals, like occasionally you hear the Chupacabra, that maybe that name will pop up every now and then. Matter of fact, I think there was a story along the Texas-Mexican border of a particular creature that fit the Chupacabra description that was spotted.
Crazy.
So I'd have to go back and pull that news story, but there are people saying the Chupacabra actually exists. Now, some would say it's either like a wolf or a coyote has mange, has lost its hair, and it's just kind of a slick body, and it's kind of wrinkled and everything. But I don't know if I'm open-minded when it comes to these things. That I think it's feasible to think that a Bigfoot exists, or a 60-foot shark exists out there somewhere, or some sort of prehistoric creature that somehow managed to survive and evolve in a different way over the years, over millions of years. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like the idea of somebody saying, well, there's nothing out there, just saying like the people say, well, there's no aliens out there. How do you know that?
Right.
When you make that claim. Until you can honestly cover every square inch of an area and say, okay, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
But even if you could do that, would it still be 100% accurate? I
feel like it goes both ways. I feel like there's you can't 100% say there is aliens, but at the same time, you also can't say that 100% isn't aliens. Because I've lived my life, and I know for a fact I've seen some things in the night sky and been able to explain it away as satellites, shooting star, planes. I've seen things, but like I've never had an encounter, an extraterrestrial encounter. So right. I would hesitate to say that aliens are real, but I'm not going to say that they're not real, because at the same time I'm not going to, because I don't know if they are, don't know if they're not, and I'm not going to stand on hard points on either side. So I feel like,
Do you feel like, and I'm curious, Ian, among your social circle with people your age, what is their feelings on these topics? Will you feel like there's a propensity to be open-minded and kind of, I believe they exist, or is it they're more skeptical?
The people I talk to, it's especially when it comes to more like spiritual stuff / alien stuff, it's much more of a accepting idea of it, or it feels more normal to talk about. The whole alien things, especially with recent history, how the whole like political spectrum thing is going on, all that kind of stuff.
All the disclosure.
Yeah, right. At this point, they're like, at one point in time, I feel like myself and other people included were like, there may be aliens. Who knows? People have some really hardcore opinions. I haven't seen any evidence myself, like hard or otherwise. But I think that the majority of my friends would say like there probably is something out there. Don't know what it is. Now I'm not sure what it would be, because I think now that like the government's gotten involved and they keep saying like, oh yeah, it feels less so now, where it's like, now I don't believe anything. Now that the government's all behind it and it's all a big thing, I'm like, it just feels like a big ploy, it feels like. But as far as cryptids, I don't think, I have friends that enjoy talking about it. I think that the group that I'm talking about that I have conversations with, it's more in like kind of a jokey aspect. It's more like we talk about the
almost like caricatures.
A little bit, yeah.
But I think part of that is access. Yeah. When you look at the older generation, say the baby boomers and older, they actually went out in the woods.
Right.
They went out there, and they tend to have a higher belief in folklore and legends.
Right.
They grew up with these stories being more prevalent in their communities. Mm-hmm. The middle age, like Generation X. They have kind of a more mixed view, with retaining some of the beliefs of the older generations, while others are leaning towards skepticism, because experience, they're coming out of the woods, and the younger generation, the millennials and Generation Z, are generally more skeptical due to the greater access of information and supposed scientific explanations. And they only encounter these things through modern media entertainment, which might influence their perception of these legends as fictional or mythological. But they're not out there listening. They're not going out into the woods overnight. They're sitting here at the video game playing all night long or on the phone all night long and only watching videos of this, where the older generations went out there and experienced
but
it.
What I'm saying is like even for myself, like I've been out in the woods and heard stuff in the middle of the night, but I think I still have a more, grounded approach on the fact that that the weird screeching sound is probably probably a fox out in the woods somewhere, instead of my mind going towards that's probably the Chupacabra, or whatever. That's so I think it's a number of things. I feel like some of it's been discredited, some of it feels like a little hokey at this point, because I think that a lot of them, like the gray aliens, for me at least, the grays, for me it feels like a cartoon. So whenever you start talking, I know that people have had real life experiences. I know that people believe that they are real, and that is a subsection of alien species that has come down to Earth. I believe that there are people that feel that way. For me, as a fact, the little green alien head, the little gray alien head, it just feels like part of pop culture now, and it feels so ubiquitous.
Yep.
That's it doesn't feel real. It's almost as if you were to tell me Scooby Doo is real, and it's maybe, but it feels like a cartoon character to me.
If you do enough LSD, Scooby Doo.
You're right. And again, that's the thing. I've never done LSD in the woods before. Maybe that would really change my mind. Maybe I would be really talked to by an alien at that point. But for me, I think some of the more conversations that I've had that were interesting was some of the ones the Wendigo. I think you brought up at one point in time, where it's the idea of this Native American or this kind of you are a cannibal in some way, and then you turn into this kind of weird spirit creature or whatever. So that kind of whole scary body morph horror thing.
I think there's a lot of within Native American culture. I mean, with skinwalkers and stuff like that. Right now, I mean, have y'all been watching, or have y'all watched Skinwalker's Ranch and the supposed supernatural?
I've heard of it, but I haven't
stuff going on there. I mean, I would follow that. Would falls within cryptids. I mean, there's obviously some activity going on there. Now, there's a whole TV show dedicated to them trying to figure out what's happening to their livestock and stuff like that, because there's some strange stuff going on. Some say it was North American Indians that once populated that area, and it could be something going on there. I don't know. I mean, it kind of reminded me of that a bit of that movie where I don't know if y'all remember that movie. Stoney, you may remember. I don't remember the name of it, where they were going to be building a development in an area that was sacred to the Indians, and these Indian spirits morphed into wolves.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
I just kind of recall something along those lines on that. So the whole Skinwalker thing, where I think where werewolf legends come from and stuff like that. I do believe they're ground in some reality. God forbid I never want to see one.
No, of course.
I would not. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think people that experience these things, I can only imagine their frustration and hopelessness of going and trying to explain to people what you just witnessed, or potentially experienced.
Right.
It'd be almost like dealing with a haunted house.
Yeah.
And strange things going on in the house that you can't explain. That no one is ever going to look at you and take you serious.
Right.
Until they themselves experience it, and all of a sudden it's, all of a sudden things change. So I think there is I do believe a lot of people sometimes overthink this stuff.
Yep.
I think as we have evolved as technology, now we have Google Maps and satellites basically mapping every bit of the globe you can find.
Right.
The world is a little less mysterious.
Yeah.
And when the world becomes a little less mysterious, we want mystery in our life. We want to believe there are just some things out there
We don't know about.
that we don't know about.
But then think about it from the opposite side of that. When all these legends were starting, all they had was superstition, and you didn't know what was right past your vision. And when you combine lack of education, because they didn't have education back then,
they had experience.
All they had was what is it? And
Right.
then you start telling stories, and you want to keep your kids from misbehaving, and all of these things start coming out in stories, and you come up with legends.
I feel like I said before about the beauty of being a human being is is the creativity and the imagination. And I feel like even myself, in the dark of night, I may have seen something, and a lot of times the more logical option is it's nothing. If I go check it out, a lot of times my mind was playing tricks on me, or my vision was playing tricks on me. And I feel like that's where my head is at with a lot of this stuff. Because I feel like there are people that will experience something, and instead of like going to check it out or whatever it may be, I could be generalizing, but take that and then run with it and be like, I saw something in the dark of night that I can't explain. And it's like, it could have been your imagination, it could have been something, who really knows? Like we were saying before about the Chupacabra, I was reading a little bit about it, and apparently the name means goat sucker. That's
Right.
what the name
Yeah.
is. And apparently, like the reason why it has that is because it attacks livestock. It eats chickens, goats, and other farm animals and pets, and is reported in that sort of area of like Mexico and America and all that kind of stuff. And it, like for me, like the logical options, like you said before, but the fact that it's probably some sort of coyote, some sort of hyena, some sort of weird dog thing that is all manged up and gross. But in the dark of night, when you just glance at it,
It looks strange and unusual.
Yeah, and then if you don't, like I said, if you don't go check it out, and you're just like, oh, I'm out of here. Then at that point, again, like you were saying with the game of telephone, the longer you go away from like the actual events, the longer your memory goes away from that actual time and place, is the more it starts to fabricate, the more it starts to become bigger and larger than life for even yourself or the people involved in the story, because you want to tell the story and you want to make it as scary as it was. And before you know it, this this coyote that has mange and all that kind of stuff is this scary scaly goblin creature, and you're like, I saw it, and it's like, well, was your mind playing tricks on you? Were being real, or were you? And then like you said before, LSD in the middle of nowhere is like, were you of the right headspace to be? That's where my mind goes, and so I feel like I'm a hard skeptic, and I think it's fun. I have to talk about it. I don't want to poo-poo anybody's ideas, especially if they had their own experience and they feel like they believe it deep down. I'm like, you can have that, but for me, I'm always looking for that. But how does it connect to? How does this ground it in like what really happened? So. And I love the video games that involve like scary stuff, and I love the stories of it all. It's fun. It is I love the campfire aspect of it. Let's all sit around and talk about some spooky stuff in the forest. Like, it's fun. But I think that's where I kind of leave it at that, at least for me.
Well, speaking of having fun,
okay.
Next year's Mothman Festival is September 21st and 22nd. So
that's in Virginia, isn't
it's
it?
in Point Pleasant, Virginia.
Yeah.
And it commemorates the 1966 sighting of the Mothman. So
I know Fallout's been having fun with Mothman. That's why I reference it, because I've heard a lot about it. And
yeah,
the game's apparently.
So maybe that's something we all need to go to and check out.
Go to the Mothman Festival. What do we need to bring to the Mothman Festival?
I don't think you just bring yourself. And maybe you bring back a souvenir.
Okay, cool. Love it. Good time.
So, yeah, it would be actually pretty interesting to kind of go to some of these festivals of some of these, creatures that, kind of like these communities have adopted.
Right.
I think that would be pretty, I think that would be fun. I really would. Maybe a bucket list trip for me.
Okay.
Right. That's fun.
Go check it out.
Yeah.
But no, the ocean is, I believe.
Now, when it comes to the ocean, I don't know. All hands are off with that. Anything could be down there.
I think the ocean invokes a certain degree of mystery.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. We don't know how
there has been some scary stuff that I have seen people pull out of the ocean like in recent years that I'm like, oh yeah, that was just down there for Lord knows how long, and that's terrifying.
I mean, think of a 50-foot colossal squid. That's a big fish.
Yeah.
Well, I used to love to go surf fishing down in Grand Isle, and I just had a little leader tied to my shorts.
Yep.
And it was like a 6-foot leader. You get a speckled trout, you
Right.
put it on the gill, and tie it back to your pants. And one day I felt just a tug. And I was like, oh, damn, one of them's still alive trying to get away. And when I got back to the bank, they were half bitten off.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, well,
Yeah,
and that's special. And then after that, I got one of the 20-foot ropes
Yeah.
with the little styrofoam nets on there.
Yeah.
And I kept it away from me after that.
that happened to me as a kid. I was surf fishing, and I said, never again will I do that.
Oh, see, and that didn't bother me. It didn't bother me not to want to go back in. It just made me rethink how I was going to do it.
I don't even want to invite even the potential.
I see. I'm not a big fan of open bodies of water personally, so I don't really got to worry about that.
I love getting out in the water to like in the surf, and I'll a little bit just to.
Yeah.
You just got to learn how to start pendulum casting.
I would just rather be in a boat.
If you don't want to get in the water,
or be on a pier, or be in a boat.
See, I don't want to be that close to people. The boat is good, but a pier, no. You got rude
I'm talking
people
about just some little rickety thing you can go out, or like the jetties. You can kind of walk the rocks a little bit. But yeah, no, I don't get into surf fish. I'm not going to invite because sharks are very much are in that area. I remember one time I went parasailing in Orange Beach.
Okay.
And lo and behold, as I'm up in the air, and I'm about 400 feet up in the air, and I'm looking down, I see them.
Yeah.
They're all over the place.
Crazy.
And I'm like, God, that looks pretty close to that dude,
Yeah.
It's like, rope don't break. I have to guide myself back in.
Yeah.
So
for me, I've realized in my adult life that I'm much more fond of the air than I am of the water. I would much rather be taken up in a small little rickety airplane that we can all like fly around and have a good time than be just in an open body of water. I don't like that.
yeah, well,
I don't have a phobia or anything, but like I'm not a great swimmer, and so like and I've never really been a great swimmer, so I know like the insecurity really sets in. Of like
to me,
oof.
the water, the open water, I can that to me would be the most terrifying experience for me, for a ship to sink and I'm floating out in the ocean.
Right.
That would.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
I can't. I don't even want to think about it because
I'm
I'm
an
like
airplane losing its engine and you just falling.
That's
well,
okay.
I would
but,
die probably in the
right.
crash.
There's,
But,
there
but
are
just
ways.
a boat
I feel,
sinking. It's like no.
I
thank you.
feel confident in landing a plane. I don't feel confident in a boat sinking. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah,
I can't. That's the thing that freaks me out. So.
Yeah, I've been out. I've been out in the open water when the storm. We got caught in the outer bands of a hurricane, and I'm gonna tell you that the water turns angry and scary quick.
Yeah,
and I look like I'm in a different world. I mean, it's just.
Yeah. I've watched videos from the bridge of like one of those like I guess they're like a lobster boats or like a shrimp boats or not shrimp boats, like a crab boats or whatever they are, like way off in like the north area, the Northern Sea. What is it called? The Bering Straits or whatever, where it's just like cold water and it just is like these. I mean, just
like the movie The Perfect Storm.
Oh my gosh, we're like they're it. I'm looking at the bow of the boat or whatever, out from the bridge, and it's just this like wall of water that he's just like, yeah, I'm like that. It's crazy.
It was a rogue wave.
It's crazy.
That the storm generated.
I'm saying like, and as they're going on, I mean, this whole thing is like, and he's crashing into the water. It's this huge ship. I'm like, that's scary, dude.
Watch videos of what these super tankers.
That's what I'm saying.
Deal with, and sometimes these rogue waves hit them at 60, 70, 80 feet high. It's like. Wow.
Crazy. Well, Anything else you want to touch on for this? Now that we're,
I think we're
if
good.
you want to give us your fear, what you're scared of, you have any opinions about cryptids or aliens or spiritual phenomenon, we have a Facebook page /Retrospect Pod where you can give us your likes and dislikes on what you want in a smaller format. If you have larger format questions or responses, we have an email address. It is getoffendedtogether@gmail.com, where you can send us all of those types of messages, because I'm pretty sure someone's going to have something to say about this, hopefully. But anyways, until next time, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless.
You're the best. Peace.